It's today in EVE Online, February 28th, 2020. It's the last day of February. I am Mannerl, here with some friends. How's it going, Cable?
Hello. For having me.
Who else we got in here? We have Tiberius, Elange. Oh, and our new friend just took off.
Morning.
Oh, and Arya. How are you guys?
Hello. Good morning.
Well,
All right, let's take a look at what's going on in EVE Online. Well, the news is, we'll get to more of it later, but the first thing we're going to talk about is something Cable brought to my attention here, that there was a Sotio, NPC Sotio was just destroyed in JP4 TAC about 3 hours ago. Let's go ahead and look at the system there. So that's not too far from 1DQ in Delve. What happened, Cable? Oh, what happened there?
Essentially, I was made aware that there was an NPC Sotio there, and that the locals, Imperium, didn't know who specifically, had reinforced it. And as it's the thing that I do in Eve, we made a plan to essentially interfere with it at least, and best case steal the loot that would potentially drop. And it kind of spiraled out into a bit of a chaotic scenario. Initially, we thought that Ranger Regiment, who turns out was the ones who actually reinforced it, wanted to run it in dreads, but because of some early spawning and whatnot, they warped in the dreads and it over-escalated out of their control, so they essentially just lost 7 dreads in like less than 2 minutes, which are the first kills you'll see on the kill board list as well. They then escalated and figured that just run it in Titans, which is the normal go-to method of null blocks. And we figured we wanted to just cause chaos at the end of it upon their attempt of extraction, which we did. And then we dropped a couple dreads on the lone Titan that we had tackled that was left behind by the rest of the fleet, and he died.
Nice. Well, it looks like you got some help from Horde and NCDOT. What's the story there?
Essentially, it was a PL guy who messaged me saying, "Yo, there's an NPC Soti here. Do you want to work together?" And figured, hey, why not? A part of something is better than everything of nothing, right?
Right. So there's about 100 Goon Swarm and Dracarys, the new part of Goon Swarm, or part of the Imperium. Sorry, they're their own alliance. Looks like they are working on this Sotio, but then you have like 300 people from Evictus, Northern Coalition, Pandemic Horde, Pandemic Legion.
Yeah, it's essentially when it started turning into a bit of a chaotic scenario, DPCI was pinged just to add more sabers, more dreads, and so on and so forth. Just because if we were going to drop dreads within Goon space, we kind of needed to be able to drop a force that would at least remove the Titan in a relatively fast pace. We did get lucky though that the Titan was in about half shield by the time we actually dropped on it, so we'd already done half the work for us from the NPCs alone.
Okay, yeah. So this makes sense. I got word of this earlier, about an hour ago, and so the rag got picked off that belonged to Ranger Regiment.
Mm-hmm. Which is also really funny, considering Norris apparently pays bounties on kills or super and capital kills on the Ranger Regiment. So that's
really?
Funny. Apparently so. And apparently someone already made a video. Lovely.
Oh, are they posting it? Yeah. Well, that's some excitement just a few hours ago in Delve. And it's kind of like a welcoming for Ranger Regiment and Dracarys.
Trial by fire.
Yeah. A little bit of a initiation coming in. So that's JP4 attack, AA in Delve. And that's not that far. It's like 3 jumps from 1DQ, which is the headquarters of Goon Swarm. You can see it here in black circled. And then 1DQ is here. So it is, yeah, like 3 jumps. Well, and that's like, they must have had you could see by all, they must have had a big resistance fleet. Or defense fleet.
Yeah, they plowed in like
yeah, you could see all the Titans here.
40 Titans or some crazy amount, and the same amount of supers.
Look at all those
whatnot.
Titans. Wow.
All the Titans.
And that's all Ranger Regiment, isn't it?
Oh yeah, they didn't want to lose him.
So there was only ever one Titan in trouble?
We went for the one because we knew that there's no way that we could like actually drop anything onto the grid with 50, 60 Titans on, so we knew that we'd have to go for them on the extract. And apparently when they fleet warped, it was like they were warping out like kind of piecemeal in the fleet warp.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a question of warp in and grab like a couple that were just not properly aligned or bumping or whatever. So like, and yeah, we could honestly probably caught a couple supers as well, but got the Titan, so all is good.
Wild. So how much damage was done here? Let's see. 320 billion. Yikes.
Yeah. Yes, but you also gotta take into account that battle report is very weird because like Goon Swarm is on the wrong side, as Goon Swarm's on the right. They should be on the left.
Evictus should be on the other side too, right?
Yeah.
It's
a little, it's very, very mixed matched. You can also see that PL and P Horde is on the same side as Ranger Regiment for some reason.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. I just threw them over there. So now let's take a second look. Yeah. 400. Wow. 420 billion lost. To
minus 300 from the Sotio.
Yeah, that's like 97% efficiency for Cable and NC Dot, Pandemic Horde, Pandemic Legion. That is astounding. Is that mostly in the form of a 423? Let's see where most of that comes from.
Most of it comes from the NPC Sotio itself because it's recorded on the kill board. You can see the diamond engineering complex. It's 319 billion.
I see it. Oh, okay.
Second bottom.
So is the engineering complex plus a Titan, that's already about 400 billion. And then there was 23 billion in dreads and some change. That's what the damage was.
Sure, but the engineering complex is an NPC, so it's not theirs.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was approximately 120 billion plus minus a bit.
That puts it in a different light for sure, but that still is like
that's 90% efficiency.
Yeah. Wild.
Z-kill in front.
You got cut off there, Tiberius.
I said, do we know what blueprint crate dropped? I don't have Z-kill in front of me.
No blueprint dropped.
I have a feeling you have to ask Cable what he grabbed to know if it dropped.
I mean, I just got the salvage and such. There was no loot, or there was no blueprint at least. There was some loot, but it was like 400 million, so whatever. No blueprint.
So Cable, you're engaged in this gameplay, the Sotios and Ranger Regiments new to Imperium. Have there been a lot of these Sotio sites up in, I guess, where Ranger Regiment used to live in Tino? Or do you know if they run a lot of these, or is this relatively new content for them?
It's relatively new, I would argue, because the last one that was in their space, I ran according to a deal with GOTG at the time. So essentially, I would run it, and then they would get a percentage of it based on a simple deal that I've offered to most no block alliances. But as far as I know, no, I don't know. None have been run up there other than that one.
Z-kill board. Here it is. Z-kill board reports Ranger Regiment Ragnarok were 73 billion destroyed. So that was 3 hours ago. Okay, so that's why it's only half the battle is reflected in our purview here. Most violent systems for the last 3 hours. All right, thanks for that update. Interesting.
Very welcome.
It seems like Horde has been taking on Goonswarm SIGs. I've been looking at some battle reports. Let me pull some of those up. Let's see here. Oh, at least a couple fights. Here's one. This was a few days ago. And this is Pandemic Horde without their allies. Well, that's not true. Here's oh, but that's like 2 people, so it doesn't really count. But this is basically Horde takes on Goonswarm, actually Imperium. It's a SIG though. And so yeah, this is a pretty big fight. 400 players, 360 ships lost, about 28 billion in losses. This is in Venal. This is 2 days ago, but efficiency for Horde is 64. So that's a 64 is a pretty good win. Looks like Ferox is up against Typhoons. So, you know, they're messing around with the Typhoons. So I don't know how much to look at this, but I am hearing that Goonswarm is not at 100% efficiency. And again, this is just a SIG. It's not the full deployment of the Imperium, but Horde alone is starting to show some muscle. Let's look at a different one.
Hey, Dome.
Hey, so PTAC V, where is that system? This is also in Venal. This is a separate fight with 376 people. So you know, these are pretty hefty fights. 400 in the last one, 375 in this one. That's pretty good. You have about an equivalent 30 billion lost. And this is, again, pretty much Horde with 165 versus Goonswarm 136. Look at that. TNT, second place. Good job, Arya. Again, you have Ferox is up against Typhoon, so Horde is trading favorably in these fights at about 75% efficiency on this one. So 65% efficiency in the last fight, 75% efficiency here. Neither group is going to be hurting because these are T1 hulls. If these fleets get totally destroyed, they can be replaced rather easily. But it's neat to see that Horde's really become a little bit of a counterweight, at least against Imperium SIGs in this area with these ships. Again, they might be experimenting with ships. Who knows?
So I was briefly formed up last night, but then I had to leave for a work thing. But I'm starting to see integration of languages. There was someone in Fleet last night. I guess he was in trouble in terms because the form-up system is camped by hostiles to Imperium, naturally on a deployment. And all of a sudden, you see Chinese characters showing him Fleet, and the Fleet's reacting. What's he saying? What's going on? And the person was trying to get in the system, and he was encountering hostiles, but he was speaking and writing in Chinese. And it takes a little while to then take that, run over to translate website, and try to translate into English. Type a response, translate it back into Chinese, and hopefully translate it correctly.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So there's a little bit of emerging lag happening, especially with the language differences as Ranger Regiment and Dracarys join Imperium. Also, a quick note.
And I think back.
Go ahead.
I think back to the old FCs where you would have FCs that are bilingual. If you remember some of the FCs like Makalo, they would call in Russian and English because to form better numbers, they would get the English speakers and the Russian speakers in the same fleet. So your bilingual FCs are going to, I think, really be important moving forward because as we get more Chinese players and Korean players mixing with the traditional English-speaking fleets, that bilingual is going to be helpful to get commands quickly so you don't have to run off to a translation website and convert things into text.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's see. We'll be showing you the video from this morning's fight. I don't know if there's a way of showing this. This is 7 minutes, but we'll just run it for a second. Oh, there it is, the destruction point. Let me back up a little bit. Oh, that's a Titan blast, yeah. So who blew up the Satio? Was that a joint effort since you were both working on it, or did
Imperium destroyed the
they
Sotio.
destroyed it? But nothing dropped.
Nothing dropped.
You can see its remains floating in space. I was asking because I saw a Doomsday blast from
Yes, they were doomsdaying dreadnoughts.
So based on information, you need to adjust your battle report. Imperium killed a Sutoyo. Therefore, you need to move that to the hostile side from the Imperium. So Imperium got another 300 billion. And when you talk about ISK efficiency, I'm telling you, it looks like then Imperium came out on top.
Absolutely right. Just swung the other way. Well, you know what? The owners of the Satio should have been a third party.
You need a third party, then throw the NPCs in there. Get the real number.
We lost 70 billion tie-in, maybe another 20 or 30 billion, but we killed over 300 billion of hostile, including the site Satio. So yes,
that's a good day. Take that to the bank. Oh, but nothing dropped. Have they given out? Have they adjusted experience points for Satios at all?
Experience points?
Not experience points.
You mean payouts?
Payouts, yeah. ISK.
It works as intended currently.
So none.
It's just that you need to be above a certain threshold essentially to get the maximum payout.
Huh. Because I remember it gave no ISK to the players that were shooting it.
It's because most people run it with like a couple guys, and then because you're not above the threshold, you don't get the full payout.
Oh.
Which kind of makes sense.
Well, I thought it was oh, I see. So they only want to pay out to big groups.
Essentially, yeah. As far as I recall, someone mentioned that it's like you need 30 or 50 plus, and then it goes up to an X amount.
What's the payout per person?
Like 150 million.
Oh, okay. So it can be worth your while if you're in a big enough group. Okay. So one guy with alts couldn't claim that money for himself.
Like me.
Like you. Yeah. I consider you a different kind of criminal.
Criminal?
Yeah. Well, I mean that in an affectionate way, like Robin Hood or something.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah. Steal from the rich. Keep for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because I thought, that part of when the Satios came out, I think part of the reward system was supposed to create interesting gameplay because there would be no payouts for people who were shooting it, but there would be incredibly lucrative one or two items that dropped. So you're supposed to fight over those items or figure out how to work that out. And I've said this before, but there's an example of this in Dungeons and Dragons. If you ever played that pen and paper game, Dungeons and Dragons had the introduction module that came out with the set was called Caves of Chaos. Funny little reference there to chaos. And in Caves of Chaos, there's this one room where there's relatively weak NPC, and you kill it, and you open up the chest, and there is this like gem worth 7 million gold pieces, let's say. And the idea was that now the party, because that party would fight over that incredibly, completely distorted, valuable gem. And the reason people would fight over it is because in Dungeons and Dragons, gold pieces were a way of leveling up because you get experience for gold pieces. So by putting in this gem, it was basically saying all you first level introductory characters, one of you, whoever gets this gem, is going to jump up to like 7th level. And the idea was that it would make people fight over it. So I thought that's what CCP was trying to do with the Satios. There's 20 guys taking this thing on. This item drops. Who's going to get it? But I think they've abandoned that because there was a lot of complaints that people were doing these and not getting anything for it. Especially when someone like Cable comes in and steals it from the entire group that's doing it.
Good times.
Yeah, that's equivalent to you sneaking into that dungeon, grabbing the stone, and running out of the room. Hilarious.
Not entirely. It's a very rude, very like
Rudimentary.
yeah, very rudimentary comparison.
Okay. So let's see here. Let's dial back to the beginning here. So that's JP4 TAC. We were talking about that. And then we talked a little bit about Delve and what the arrival of the new Chinese players in the form of Ranger Regimen and Dracarys, two groups from Dead Coalition, how they are fitting into the Imperium and how the language barrier is being worked with. And it also reminds us of dual language FCs and how effective they were at merging coalitions. So there's something else I heard today, and we should go and look, that Siberian Squad is leaving Dead Coalition now. I just saw the rumor on Discord here on TIS. If that's the case, that is the last major group for Dead Coalition. Let's actually check out Siberian Squad. Siberian Squad are Russians, I think.
Yep.
Well, they've ticked up 500 people, so they have probably absorbed some people, and then they actually lost some people. So they're an alliance, so there's no coalitions in the game. The coalitions are made by players, totally third-party concept. The biggest structure you can be is an alliance in the game. But I don't see any signs of where they went or what they're doing. We will find out later.
Apparently they joined Legacy.
That's right, Legacy. Now, the reason I'm looking at their sovereignty is when a group switches sides, you will eventually see them start picking up new systems, because no group is bribed without sovereignty, no big group. So they would be given some systems, a home, basically, in the new territory.
Assuming it was a bribe, though.
A bribe or an arrangement made, some diplomatics, but they're given a new home. And so you start seeing those systems appear on the sovereignty systems claimed by that alliance, and you can tell that they're moving to a new place. So yeah, so we know now that more and more people are telling us that Siberian Squad is joining Test. Test is an interesting alternative to joining the enemy, PandaFam, basically, or joining the Imperium. So Test provides that middle ground where they're not taking a political decision there. You disagree?
Sort of.
All right.
There's always a political action in switching sides.
Well, but you're not joining the people that are taking your land, and you're not running to their natural enemy. You kind of take the third option.
Okay, I don't know the story, but there may be some undercurrents of politics from Serenity between Siberian Squad and Fraternity.
Mm-hmm. Belize makes a point here. Legacy is not a neutral party in this conflict because they attacked Duckline.
Yeah, they're one of the actual reasons.
Invaders? Anyone have any information on why Siberian Squad would join Legacy?
Big pass.
You know something you can't tell us?
Oh no, it passes, and I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they probably wouldn't inform you, right? You're their natural enemy.
Everyone's my natural enemy.
Well, we'll try to find out why Siberian Squad chose Test, because Test was attacking Deckline. But remember, Test was really attacking Sort Dragon and attacking Sort Dragon's darkness and trying to break up his coalition to basically reduce his ability to get on CSM, the Council of Stellar Management. Looked in that perspective, looked at it in that perspective, you could see how Siberian Squad might assume that wasn't a full attack on them as part of the coalition, but not necessarily part of Sort Dragon's alliance or territories or any of that kind of stuff. So they attacked Deckline. They didn't attack where Siberian Squad was living, which was Tenal, I believe.
Branch.
Or the branch. Yeah, I meant branch. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So confirmation they are becoming blue. Yes, confirmation. Siberian Squad confirmed moving to Legacy. Thank you, guys. Okay, there's some other stuff here. Where is it? What's this in-game news? I've been seeing some lore here. Federal election suspended after presidential candidates attacked and the federal network collapses. This is coming out of some background stories being released by EVE Online. By CCP. This happens in Luminaire, which is the capital of Galente space. The Galente Federal Elections Commission has formally suspended the presidential election following the multiple terrorist attacks on presidential candidates and federal communication networks. The suspension also applies to all other federal elections scheduled to be held over the 28th and 29th of February. Huh. That's interesting. I think there is also something else going on here where a player is actually allowed to run for the leadership of the Galente Empire. I know it's just a role-playing thing. I don't think they would ever let, well, you never know, a player run an in-game empire. Don't even know what that would look like.
Maybe they'll make trials.
What?
Maybe they'll make trials like they did with the MR.
Well, see, that's true. They do. That's why I said you never know. Players can affect the leadership of Amar, but it is an Amarian non-player character that runs the Amarian Empire.
Oh yeah, sure. But I mean, like they could make a tournament like they did the Amarian combat trial thingy.
Yeah. Well, who knows? It's very interesting, and I think I think that faction war is not anything they're going to deal with soon. But if you could integrate faction war into politics, into the NPC arena, you might get some interesting ways of interacting with the game. If players could ascend to leadership and use certain resources, it would just be decried as completely unfair if one player were running an empire in the game. You got to build your own empires. That's what Horde and the Imperium have done. Legacy and all those guys.
Yeah, I've seen some rumors showing up in Discord. One of the bullet points in the article talks about possible disruption of fluid routers, and I believe similar terminology was used before the blackout last year in nullsec. And I guess there's some speculation. Could CCB be hinting at a blackout in lowsec?
Oh, well, lowsec, because that would continue to be Empire space. Nullsec has no Empire influence. So if they did have a blackout, you assume it would be in lowsec.
And these articles are about faction conflict, maybe?
Faction war blackout? Very interesting. All right, so those just joining us, like a coach there. We're taking a second to talk about federal elections suspended after presidential attack on federal networks, or federal networks collapse. It's basically, it's an RP piece of news, but there's a little detail in there that talks about, what was it? The relays are going down?
Yeah, there's a mention about it, and I'm not a lore person, but I think we need lore folks to come in and speculate on what that might mean and how it might draw parallels to previous lore-related
So there's these, I forget what they're called, what'd you call them? Fluid
routers? Fluid routers,
which are essentially the way that communication is maintained. It's kind of the in-game way of describing what local is, how communications are transported. If you read any of the EVE Online books, that's also, I believe, how your clones travel. I could be wrong. I'm not a lore expert. But basically, when you die, your information is zapped over to the nearest gate, and every gate has a way of communicating with other gates, and that web sends your information back to your last cloning facility, which is how they describe the process of you waking up in a station after being blown up and potted. But those something similar to that is the fluid communications network. And what happened this last summer, about 9 months ago, in real life, 9 months ago, the Triglavians that were invading Empire space put a lot of pressure on that system and essentially broke it. So what the Empires did, and this is all in lore in the game, is they said, we've got to maintain communication for our empires, but we don't have enough energy to do it for nullsec. So nullsec lost its communication ability, and you saw it go into blackout. And that was the lore reason. It was caused by Triglavians, not by drifters, even though drifters attacked first. That was not the case. So Triglavians essentially caused the blackout. It's okay. So then the Empires say, okay, we can restore communication. 6 weeks later, real weeks later, they restored communication and blackout was lifted and players could see each other in local again in nullsec. So that same language is being used here, that those fluid routers are in trouble. And so we're thinking that could be a sign of blackout coming back in a limited way to a different area, possibly lowsec. And the reason that makes sense is because a lot of small gang warfare happens in lowsec, faction warfare, all that kind of stuff. And those are the guys that really liked blackout because they were hunting in wolf packs and stumbling upon each other and victims. So if you're going to have a blackout, maybe that's where you want to have it. That's where that gameplay kind of exists. Any thoughts on that, Arya?
Oh, you're beyond my speculation at this point. I don't know.
I ran with it too far, right? Come back.
Yeah, I think we need to summon the lore experts to delve into this topic.
Yeah, my problem with lore experts is they kind of like get away from concept and get into the details. And I love all the lore experts. They're fascinating people. But when anybody talks about EVE Online lore, I'm just like, what? I don't understand what you're referring to. What's that? How's that connected? You know, instead of staying conceptual, they go into details. So they show their knowledge by how many words they memorized and how they've got this all worked out. But it is completely unrelatable. So I think the best way to approach lore, and there are people that do this, is to talk in terms of allegories and to make sure that you cement the concepts, that people understand A plus B equals C, and get away from the details of what A is called and what B is called and what C is called and the intricacies of why they're called this and why it's important and even the background connections and all that kind of stuff. Like if you're focused on that, because that's the deeper level, more interesting stuff for you as an expert, then that's great. Talk amongst yourselves at universities, let's say. Let all the ivory tower people talk amongst themselves. That's fantastic because you need to talk in a deep way that's encouraging to you. But do not think that because you can all talk that way to each other, that the masses outside the ivory towers are understanding what the heck you're talking about.
When I was younger in school, my school days, we called this Cliff Notes. Give me the Cliff Notes.
Yeah, it's TLDR, explain like I'm 5. That's what it is now. And funny enough, that's what Talking in Stations is all about. We're trying to break down those big concepts, whether it be news of the day, like today, or some historical event that happened, or even just straight up mechanics and changes. What we try to do is make sure that it's expressed to someone that can understand it that's 5 years old. And
there's a concept in neurolinguistic programming for learning. It's called chunking, breaking things up into bite-sized pieces.
Yeah, terrible word for it.
That's what they called it years ago. I don't know what they call it now. It's probably something different, but It's breaking things down into manageable pieces of understanding. If you have a definition for this particular idea here and this one here, then you can move the pieces around and actually build something bigger. But you have to have an understanding of that small piece first. If you don't have that, if nobody's ever explained that to you, then you don't have a vocabulary.
Right. Well, looking at the videos now, there's some notable ones. Again, I'm really encouraged by how much of other languages I see. This is in the last 24 hours. Let's make sure. Yeah, last 24 hours. So you can see that Lone Wolf is out with broker relations changes. That would be a very good video to see. That came out yesterday. You see a lot of streaming from Inner Hell. That's got to be the work of Tori Shepard, one of the leaders of Inner Hell there.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Get Riv on about the broker changes. I mean, I trust her opinion more on the tactical implications of what broker changes mean than just about anybody.
You mean Rivra?
Yeah, Rivra.
Yeah. She is the editor at INN.
She's the best tactical trader I've ever met in any. She's not the richest, but she's the best.
Okay. Well, she doesn't do shows anymore. She actually ran Talking in Stations a few times, but I think it stressed her out too much. So she just doesn't want to do shows anymore.
But she will talk about the market if you ask her.
Okay. I'll try to get her on. Try to get her on now. Jintan has a video on filaments. That would be an interesting video to have it broken down for you. And so on and so forth. EVE Online is showing pictures of, looks like Fanfest from years before, getting people hyped up about Fanfest, which is actually like 4 weeks away, right? Yeah, I'm going to say yeah. I'll answer my own question. Yeah. Okay, so link, please. I'll tell you what, if you want to see any video links, go ahead and go to, because there's a lot of them, YouTube, type in EVE Online as a search, and then use the filters to say today, and you'll see the list that I was looking at.
On the filaments, I was looking at some of the feedback in Discord. It looks like filaments are introduced in multiple distribution methods. I don't know if we've talked about that in the past.
Yeah, there are 3 different distribution methods. Oh, I forget. We did this great interview yesterday, and this is why I know this, with pretty much the guys in charge of developing the vision of EVE Online. So it's a CCP Muppet Hunter, who's fascinating, and CCP Ratati, who's very smart. And we talked about a lot of the changes that are coming. That podcast will be out tonight, and you will see it Sunday. We're going to go ahead and show it on Sunday as a replay, but it'll be the whole thing with some graphics up and stuff like that, because our engineer McLeod's going to enhance the visuals now that it's not live. He can actually take some time to do that. So that is a don't miss, and that'll be out tomorrow, or it depends on where you're at, but it'll be out in a few hours. I would say like 12 hours to 36 to 24 hours. And in that, we talked about a lot of things having to do with basically I don't know what you would call that, how they design the game, how they think about the game, how they think about play styles, and how they're attacking a big challenge of scarcity and creating value for players, so that players actually fight over things and enjoy the process as opposed to fighting over things that don't matter. We tackle a lot of those kinds of questions. But anyway, yes, the filaments is something that came up. I think it actually came up yesterday on Today in EVE Online. And the filaments are distributed in 3 ways. Do you know what those 3 ways are?
So I was reading, it's the 5-man filaments are obtained from data sites. There's a 15-man version that uses the 5-man filament and a blueprint. But the blueprint is purchased with OR LP, which I find a little odd because CCP seems to be moving away from the old mission content and introducing new things like the abyssal sites, the Triglavians. To have this 15-man filament tied to or LP just seems almost backwards. And then there's a 25-man filament that's given out during events, and that's nice. I think that's where some of the larger groups are going to be looking to work on those events or try to obtain the filaments from those events to get those larger fleet sizes.
Yeah, I think that's their way of modulating how available these things are. I think that's the conclusion we came to yesterday. So some of the stuff you'll go out there and you'll earn through missions or through building up loyalty points, LP, using those loyalty points as currency to buy some of the stuff that's exclusive to the loyalty point store. And so those two things you can earn at your own pace, but the filaments that are used for big groups, 25, those are things that are going to be available only when an event comes around, and that's where you can harvest those. So they'll have a much slower entry rate into the game. So it'll be harder to find a 25, and they'll be more expensive. And that's, I think, the idea. They'll be sold on the market. You can convert Concord loyalty points to OR loyalty points. I guess that's a statement there. I forget does anyone know what that conversions are? And if there's a conversion rate? I thought it was like 2 Concord points for every one faction or the other way around. It's not something I'm familiar with because I don't do missions or rat all that often.
I don't know the conversion, but it's interesting that you can do that. When I first read this, I was scratching my head thinking, how many people run OR missions?
Yeah, okay. So Mito, SC is telling us that it's 1 for every 4 conversion rate, or 1.8 conversion rate is probably the reverse. Anyway, so there's a conversion rate. It's not 1-to-1, so you can't have 1 Concord loyalty point traded for 1 or as a faction loyalty point. There is a conversion rate, so you will lose some value of loyalty points, but check that out. That's something we should probably get on is missions and how you do them and how they work. We've done shows on that with Seamus from Eve University. He's terrific. He just knows all this stuff. Like his encyclopedic brain just really clearly is able to explain some very deep concepts about how missions work and stuff. And we should do that again. That's been at least a year. That's been about 2 years since we did that. Oh, I'm thinking about it. Talking in Stations is coming up on its 3rd year anniversary. I've been broadcasting for 4 years, writing and broadcasting for 4 years, but no, it is 4th year. Talking in Stations is going to have its 4th year anniversary at the beginning of April, because this show started right when World War B started. Like we were looking at all the movements of troops. Those were the first few shows of Talking in Stations. I had been broadcasting a year before that, so I'm on my 5th year, but Talking in Stations on its 4th year. And holy hell, we are like producing more stuff than ever, daily pretty much now. Oh yeah, Aria, we can talk about real life stuff. That's how I like to mark time, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I just want permission before bringing it up.
Yeah, it's fine.
So a couple things going on in real world news that affects the world of EVE Online. EVE Echoes, their official Twitter account, put out a tweet indicating a delay in EVE Echoes, the next phase. And that's mainly due to the coronavirus impacts in China.
How does that work? Why is it impacted?
And I put the link into the chat, but because of the situation in China and folks being mass quarantined really to their homes, that affects a lot of the businesses' operation in China. From an infrastructure standpoint, you're not using your offices networks as much. You're using your home networks, and it has a impact to companies of various types in China. It also impacts IT companies, as well as the stock market. If you've been watching news, the stock market is not doing quite so well. Yeah. And this is just part of that impact of a global concern over this coronavirus actually having impacts to the Eve world. Additionally, as of this morning, a new article was posted from Iceland. The first confirmed case of COVID-19, the variant of the coronavirus, was found in Iceland.
Oh.
And the individual was identified as coming from northern Italy, from a region that has not seen infection. And as if you've been watching the news, this is starting to hit a lot of countries in Europe where they're starting to see more and more cases of this. And I know there's some concern among folks in the CSM who are also traveling next week for Summit to Iceland. And now there is a case of coronavirus in Iceland.
Right. Well, there's also Fanfest coming up where, thousands, what is that? 1,000, 2,000 people from all over the world are going, mostly from Europe and the United States, but it's interesting. And they're an island, so you would think they would be a little more immune, but the world's just so connected these days. I did not know Iceland had a case.
Matt, can I speak on this for a sec?
Yeah.
I'm actually a physician. I work in a major medical facility in Texas. I wanted to briefly just say that
This is Tiberius, by the way.
COVID-19 currently has almost a 50% recovery rate from all current cases that have been reported. Currently, from the last email I received from the CDC this morning, there are 83,867 confirmed cases, and the total recovered is 36,686, and the total deaths is 2,867, and that's all varies depending upon social economic status, the quality of care that you're getting, et cetera, et cetera. Like the best example that I could give is that, for example, Iran has 388 total confirmed cases and 34 deaths, which is about a 10% mortality rate.
Yeah.
Whereas the United States has 60, maybe that's a bad example. Japan has 228 confirmed cases and 4 total deaths, which is less than 10%. That's about a 2% death rate. So
yeah,
I don't want for people who are paying attention to this, I don't want to downplay it too much, because there's still, the possibility of this becoming a worldwide pandemic issue. But I do want, the news always focuses on the bad, but I do want to focus on the fact that, or express the fact, I should say, that there is a upside to this. In
other words, a lot of people can recover.
That's correct. Yes.
So what you said there is 50% of the people who have it or have had it are recovered, meaning they've gone.
I would say almost 50%, close to 50%. Again, those numbers, as of this morning, according to the CDC and Johns Hopkins University, 83,867 confirmed cases and 36,686 of those people have recovered, which is almost 50%. It's like 43, 44% of the people who have contracted this disease have recovered.
I placed a link in the Twitch chat where you can actually track the total cases reported, deaths recovered, and has a breakdown per country.
Yeah, I can see that. We put that up for you and put the link in chat. It's it's an interesting map, interactive map, it looks like. Wow, compared to the rest of the world, look at these massive dots in Europe, in the Middle East. I didn't know that. I guess that's Iran. And then, of course, Asia is just covered in red. But if you look over at Latin America, there's only one case in Brazil. And the United States is spotted, but there's smaller outbreaks. It just shows you the difference in scale. I think it's I thought of that we've been due this sort of thing for a long time. So I thought the swine flu was going to be it turned out to burn out pretty fast, but I was worried about it back then. That was like 10 years ago. And so this one just doesn't surprise me. You had SARS that was like 2004 hit Toronto of all places, as well as, and this is the same kind of thing, as well as China. And yeah, so it is, it's like long overdue. This is like the earthquake in California. I've been waiting for it. The weird thing is, and a lot of countries are underreporting it because they just don't know, or they don't assume, or I don't know what. I mean, the reporting, if you think about it, is very difficult because somebody has to be sick. Then they have to run a test on them. And those tests are actually kind of like not everywhere. And it's not their first assumption. But when they do run the test and find it, you have to assume there's a lot more people who are battling it that aren't, that the country isn't aware of. Like this person that surfaced in Sacramento, California. That person was hadn't really come into contact with anyone directly from China or from an infected area. And that's very worrisome because that means somehow some 3 or 4 people later, that person gets it. That means that there's probably a lot of other people who have it too. And it just keeps spreading because people are ignorant. And not in a bad way. They actually don't understand or that they have something or don't know.
Right. So the main concern about this disease is the fact that it's a lung disease. It does affect the lungs. So when you expectorate or cough or anything, you're going to expel water droplets that could possibly contain the disease, which basically makes it a short-term airborne disease. That's in a lot of cases when if there's a large flu population and they're trying to prevent it from spreading, one of the things that the CDC recommends is you stay 5 to 6 feet away from the nearest person. And that's a really good way of doing that. Another good way is just wearing a antimicrobial face mask, just to prevent it from getting into your mouth and nose membranes and then contracting it that way.
Does it help? Do those things help, or do they? I heard that they're not really helpful to stave it off. They're helpful for you not to spread it as fast.
That's true. It's easier. It's easier for those things to prevent you from spreading it, but it also prevents you from if you wear the right type of mask. There are certain types of masks that have antimicrobial properties and will kill viruses and bacteria if it comes in contact with the mask that you're wearing. But it also puts like a barrier, right? So the average person, I believe, touches their face like I don't know, 60 to 80 times a day. So it just prevents you from, let's say you get it on your hands, you touch a surface, and then it gets onto your face, yada yada yada. So
yeah. All right. More information on that is probably everywhere since it is now becoming what looks like it probably will become a pandemic. It's hitting the stock market in real life. So those worries are starting to happen. And it's already affected EVE Online. The production of EVE Echoes has been delayed. Who knows what else it will affect. I feel bad for fan fests and player gatherings because a lot of conventions are suffering. People don't want to gather with other people from all over the world right now. It's just not, it's just one of those things you don't want to expose yourself to if you don't have to, but chances are you're probably fine.
You mentioned player events, and that's an important addition I wanted to make sure we add is if FanFest ends up being canceled, that obviously that's a hit to CCP, which is a business. A lot of these player organized events, the organizers shell out the money ahead of time.
Oh yeah.
So there is a real concern about an impact if EVE North got canceled or EVE Vegas got canceled. Some people may have a significant financial impact to them.
Isn't EVE Vegas in like October or something?
No, it's 4
EVE
weeks
North
away.
is in June.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Yeah.
Okay. But after spring, nobody's going to be talking about this anymore anyway, so it's going to be fine.
Right?
Likely. Yeah, it's usually what happens with these viruses. Once the temperatures go up, things usually calm down.
Have you been listening to Trump or something? Like, what?
No, that's literally what happens. That is literally
Isn't
what
that
happens.
Isn't that what
I don't
Trump-
listen to Trump. I'm not an American. I don't care what he
know.
says.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding, but I think that is the same thing Trump said. Like in the summer, and
Oh,
this
is
will
it?
be
Really?
gone in
That's
2
not
months.
No, I mean, to be fair, like, I think it's kind of hilarious that everybody's tanking or whatever.
Actually, we have some fresh news, if I can interrupt you.
Yeah.
An article was just linked. FanFest is canceled.
2020 canceled.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, we were expecting a big story. FanFest canceled. Wow. That's the big story. Let's go to it. Can you give me a link?
It's already in the Discord thing or whatever.
Yes.
It's also in Twitch chat.
That makes sense for them as a company, I think, right? Because like it feels kind of wrong to like invite all these people to meet up, and then obviously in a situation like this, I get it why they do it. I think it's a sensible decision, to be honest. That makes sense.
Yeah,
me.
and we just heard that the first case happened in Iceland. Now, this is interesting. We were talking about this a couple days ago. Would Iceland want people from all over the world to come to Reykjavik? And so I don't know if this is CCP canceling it or this is the Icelandic government saying not a good idea right now.
Could be either, really. I mean, definitely FanFest is one of the biggest tourist events, right? Like in terms of people coming from all over the place. Obviously, Iceland has grown incredibly popular among tourists in the last like 10, 20 years anyways.
Yeah.
But the FanFest is certainly one of the bigger events as well, where you have like, I don't know how many people attend FanFest, probably a couple thousand, right? From like all over the world. It's definitely a big event. And again, I think it makes sense from like a company standpoint and with the situation, but so like in Germany, for example, it's starting to spread now as well. But like the thing I think people should be afraid of are the people, not the actual disease. Because unless you're like above 80 years old or you already have a lung disease of some kind, or you're like an infant, you're not really in any danger if you have like a decent healthcare in your country. There was like 20 people that came back from China to Germany in the start of February. They all got put into a hospital. They didn't even get sick, and they all got released 2 weeks ago. They're all cured. It's fine, right? But they were all positively tested with the coronavirus. They just never got any symptoms. They were treated anyways. They got healed, and they were like released again, right? So, like for example, me, I'm 25. Even if I would get the virus, for example, I would probably have a very good chance of, I go to the hospital, I get treated, and I get released. Like that's why I don't feel like scared by the disease itself, but I feel like it's already happening, right? You said it, like it's already affecting the stock market. People are doing mass purchases at stores, which is obviously great for me because I run the stores, but it kind of sucks for the supply chain and everything. So, yeah, that's like I think what people should be worried about is the reaction of the people, not the actual disease, unless obviously you're like old or you have already trouble with your lung, then it is kind of dangerous. But unless you're like that is like your status, I guess you're pretty fine. I think people are like, the media is definitely putting a lot more attention to this, I think, than it deserves. We had the same thing with the sickness in Germany. It was not very global, but it was a thing in Germany. It was called EHEC. We had it like, I think it was like 5 years ago. And German media was going crazy. And at the end, like nothing happened, right? Nothing serious anyways. So I'm a bit like skeptic about this, I guess.
Yeah, I got that from you. But okay, so the reality is, and we're talking, we don't know why it's canceled. We can assume, but see, the fact is that FanFest is now canceled. What kind of repercussions does that have? Oh, it says right there. So it says, in light of recent ongoing global developments surrounding the spread of COVID-19 coronavirus, we have taken the difficult decision to cancel FanFest 2020. Read more details here.
I think the main thing now for CCP should be helping people or try to help people with usually canceling hotels isn't that much of a problem, right? But canceling flights can be a problem sometimes. I don't know, maybe it's a bit less complicated in other countries, but in Germany it sometimes really sucks.
That's a good point.
So
I assume you've heard. So you guys have heard the news about FanFest by now?
Yeah, we have it up on screen.
Okay, I was just checking in. I wanted to make sure people knew with as much warning as they could get.
Yeah, So, do you know anything more about this than we do, or is this is as straightforward as it looks?
It's super straightforward. I think every conference in the world is rethinking whether they're going to bring people, especially international conferences. Are we going to bring all these people from all over the world together into one place and then send them back home? So it's probably a prudent and at this time the summit is not canceled. I leave in less than 24 hours. Sort is already on his way, so obviously people are concerned. We have significant others that are obviously concerned and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
for now, it looks like we're going to be able to pull this off, but I don't think anyone would.
Oh, he got
Rip.
disconnected.
Rip. The coronavirus got him. Damn.
Well, he's not on his way. He said Sword Dragon was on his way. He's a few hours away. He's a few hours away from going to Iceland himself. Where
Can I make a slick translation? Actually, keep going. Sorry, I was going to make a sick transition to an actual Eve topic, but let's just keep talking.
This is an Eve topic, right? Now it's a huge topic. One, you have development slowing down in Asia. Two, you have Fanfest Cancelled, the conferencing and stuff. And we definitely will get back to more Eve news in just a second. But we also have not confirmation, but Arya told us that there has been a case of the virus in Iceland now. And so it is something that they're probably worried about. Dunk, you're back?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
My phone switched over to a different mode. So
the summit's still going, even though FanFest is canceled.
That's the plan for now. Yes. So obviously, there's, like I said, concern with significant others about all this. But I have a fantastic presentation to give, so I want to be able to give that.
Is that on industry because you've been collecting data for that?
Yeah, it's the industry presentation. I'd very much like CCP to really have a deep look at industry and how it's done, because it really is the kind of heart and lungs of New Eden, and all of the changes around industry, not directly, definitely affect how industry will work and whether people will still do it, that kind of thing. So I'd love to be able to present.
Have you talked to the new economics guy? Does he seem like he actually knows the topic?
Well, I'm not going to really comment on what CCB does or doesn't know. I don't like to do that. But we've been talking with the ecosystem team for quite a while. It's just now that they publicly announced that they have an ecosystem team. But CSM has been talking to the ecosystem team for months now.
We just had an interview with the leader of that team, CCP Ratati. It's recorded. It's being edited. It'll be out tonight on podcast form. And we also had Manhunter on that show. So it's going to be
Muppet Hunter.
I like Manhunter, but Muppet Hunter.
It's like an anti-cheat tool.
Yeah, and actually, it's interesting. One of the things you'll hear in this interview is just how focused they are on. I can say it's because it's public or going to be public. Bargos, you got a live mic, buddy. There. One of the things that you'll hear is just how intently they're persecuting cheaters, botters, and RMTers, of course, but botters. They're really after botters and have been for the last year. And so a lot of the stuff they're doing that is interfering with some people's gameplay is really interfering with EVE Online botters. So that's interesting. You'll hear more about that. It's no problem, Bard Ghost. All right. I think Dunk's done talking. This is big news. FanFest canceled due to concerns about the global virus. It looks like it's becoming a pandemic. And I think actually that Iceland probably didn't want a conference, on their island. One of the best things about Iceland, it's isolated, except for air travel and boat travel. So.
Well, if they've already had their first case, it's too late.
It's too late, right?
Yeah. It doesn't really change anything. It's more the whole quarantine problem. And, well, we kind of touched upon this last night. It was the last thing we talked about, right?
That's right.
There was actually a risk that they would do something like this, because especially if they hadn't had their first case, it would be very likely that they wanted to see if they could contain it. But apparently they didn't manage to contain it. And I think it's actually out everywhere now. The containment thing is just not really possible. It's too much like a classic flu. You can't really contain those.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting too. If I was living in Iceland too, I would be like, yeah, I don't think I want 2,000 people from all over the world arriving. And we were talking about like everybody gets sick at these fan fests. It's like the nerd flu just destroys everybody.
Yeah, but this is very likely to. If it is flu-like and behaves in a similar way, you might actually see this whole thing burn out in about a month or two.
That's what I said, but I was yelled at.
Okay, hang on. Keep quiet. We're going to actually listen to this video that just came out. This is Eve Pulse. This is a 4-minute video. Let's see if we can
Did it?
watch
Oh,
it.
Did.
Did it just come out, or is this older?
Nope, seems to be from
Just
today.
now. Just now.
All right, let's check this out
Literally
together.
3 minutes ago.
We'll
3
have-
minutes ago.
We'll have a reaction viewing of it.
Capsuleers, welcome to The Pulse. In this last-minute update to this week's episode, we have some breaking and unfortunate news about EVE FanFest 2020. In light of the recent global developments surrounding the spread of the coronavirus, we have taken the decision to cancel this year's FanFest event in Reykjavik, Iceland. It is with a heavy heart that we make this decision, but we feel absolutely compelled to follow the most responsible course of action and to prioritize the safety of our attendees, of our staff, and of the general public in Iceland. We wanted to get this news out to you as soon as possible so that you have enough time to make any changes to your travel and accommodation arrangements. There will be a news item with more details that will be linked in the description of this video. And we will also be providing an update over the following weeks, so please keep an eye on all EVE Online social media channels for those updates. We now take you to the rest of this week's episode of The Pulse, which was filmed prior to this breaking news. Welcome to The Pulse, Capsuleers, your regular catch-up for everything that's been happening in EVE Online. We're going to go straight to an undisclosed location in deep space where CCP Convict has some news for you.
All right, guys, looks like everything's ready. You've got a minute up your sleeve if you want to go and have a quick bio before we head out.
Copy that. Roger that. Affirmative.
Hey guys, during the Naughty or Nice holiday winter event, we introduced reindeer filaments to New Eden, and they were a big hit. Ever since that event concluded, you've been clamoring for them to come back, and we've got some good news for you. From next week, those filaments will be returning permanently as the new Needlejack filaments. These new filaments will be available through exploration data sites, LP stores, and some will be exclusively available through upcoming seasonal events. They'll work exactly the same as the reindeer filaments. Get together with your fleet mates, activate a filament, and yeet your fleet somewhere into the far unknown reaches of nullsec space. All right, gang, are you guys back from your break? You ready to go?
I was born ready, man. Let's do it. Let's do this. I'm feeling stoked, man.
All right, activating filament.
Yeah, let's do it.
Here we go.
I was born ready, baby. Let's go. Woo, let's go. We're Friday.
All right, look alive, people. How many we got in local? Check D-scan. Someone open up Dotland. What region are we in? Bellpace. All right, I'm just gonna figure out where we are. Can someone run a D-scan for me? Guys, D-scan. Can someone please tell me if there's anything on D?
Lost my life. Ah, shit. Here we go.
I just got a work phone call, so I missed like the last few minutes of everyone talking. But is there any other questions anyone has before I...
In celebration of the returning filaments, something that was widely requested
They're
by the
watching
EVE
the thing
community,
at the moment.
there will be a 15% sale on
Video
selected
or whatever.
Plex. The sale will be on all Plex purchases of 500 Plex and higher. It goes live on Thursday 27th of February and ends on the 3rd of March. The Skilling Spree and Chilling Spree events have been very popular, and the event is due to return with a PvP twist. Capsuleers will be awarded skill points for PvP kills during the event, which will be called Skilling is Just a Means, with daily challenges being issued at downtime each day between the 12th of March and the 14th of April. The Broker Relations update will be launching on the 10th of March. This will feature changes to the mechanics around the in-game market, specifically the creating and updating of market orders. As part of the changes, the margin trading skill will be repurposed as the Advanced Broker Relations skill. This is live now on the Singularity test server for all Capsuleers to try out. The dev blog containing full details of the updates is linked in this video's description. The monthly economic report for January is out now, and the link can be found in the description below. The monthly economic report is a key tool for those who wish to conduct profitable business in EVE Online, as the spotting and following of trends across New Eden's many systems and industries are essential for the building and maintenance of Capsuleer wealth. Highlights from the report include a continued upward trend of production, with Delve continuing to lead in the mining metrics. The data also shows that the general market slowed in January, with the velocity of ISK trending downwards. Thank you for joining us for this special episode of The Pulse. Please remember to hit subscribe to stay up to date with everything happening in EVE Online and to be notified when a new video is posted. Until next time, fly safe.
You'll be able to
There it is. Now to bloopers.
Oh, hey guys. Capsuleer used reindeer themed. We're pleased to announce that they were a nice winter from next week. We're running to this one right here. This is the one.
Well, you can see.
Reno.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, we're done. Go ahead.
No, sorry. It was other comps.
It's funny, the bloopers, you can tell how many tries it takes to get what they do done and stuff.
I really enjoy those EVE Pulse videos. They do a really good job of summing up like the stuff that's going on through the game, and I wish that they would do some more of them and publicize them a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, we'll do what we can to get them out there. I hope they get around. They think they end up with thousands of views, but they did do a great job, and that one was very timely. I think it was nice that they put that new header on it, so people know that Fanfest is canceled. It's not a rumor; it is true. Fanfest is canceled because of the coronavirus fears. All right, so we're about out of time here. Killer B, did you want to segue, you said, back into EVE Online?
No, it's probably not important enough to compete with these new, so whatever.
Well, we heard today, though, the Siberian squad is moving to Legacy.
Yeah, exactly. This is one thing. We're expecting Darkness to make an announcement, or we know that Darkness has a big announcement to make on the weekend. There's an op posted for Darkness, a big CTA that everybody needs to show up for. It's called The Future. It's kind of weird because Sword isn't there, but he's probably going to do it from his laptop. I am assuming at the summit, something like that.
That's right.
They started unanchoring all the keep stars in decline. So decent chance that they're just going to pack up and leave. I was going to segue much like Fanfest is canceled, so was Sword Dragons Coalition. That was my segue, but that has passed. So
well, it would have been a good transition. Very clever. Yeah, we were looking at iHubs earlier, and I have them up on screen now, and a lot of decline is coming down. Now, are they self-destructing, or are those timers? Those aren't timers you created, are they? Or NC or PanFam?
So there was some of the RR IHOPs, Rager Regiment IHOPs in decline exploded at the start of the week, which is very easy to realize what happened there. Whenever the soft payments are due at the start of the week, right? So when you don't have any money in your holding wallet, then the IHOPs blow up. That's what happened there, most likely. And then we just dropped some because there were like 8 systems in decline that weren't hopped. And then there's some tests still creating timers as far as I'm aware. But we weren't really finished it with our branch cleanup yet. Like we have 2 keep stars that we're going to kill tomorrow, I think, on Sunday and Sunday. Like Saturday, Sunday, we get 1 keep star each, and then like a bunch of other shit. And then we were going to start moving towards the border of decline early next week and then start pushing. But it seems like they're just going to move away.
Mm-hmm.
They're packing up. At the moment, they're packing up all the decline keep stars. We're obviously going to try to cancel as many of those unanchoring keep stars as possible. We'll see if we can make it, because we don't want to half-ass a big op into decline with supers and titans, because it would expose us a bit, because we don't really have any structures there to extract to. So we're not really sure how to approach that. But yeah, obviously we're going to try to at least maybe pause 1 or 2 of the keep stars that aren't anchoring. That'd be great. And then I think that Darkness is just going to leave. Siberian Squad is going to Legacy. RR and most of the Chinese alliances of that coalition joined the Imperium. And then I think that, Darkness is probably gonna go like the Imperium's way as well. I would assume.
Is that what your money's on? They're going to go down to the Imperium?
Yeah, like I don't know if like Sword could join Legacy, right? Because I feel like Sword and Villy, like that can work, right? So I don't think Sword would be accepted into Legacy, and then there is only the Imperium left, right? Where else would they go? Well, no, we're not gonna accept that. Like at this point, that's a done deal. Maybe Gobbins. Actually, that's a very hard thing because sometimes Gobbins does whatever. Yeah, he just does what he wants, right? So maybe, but I don't think so. I think that there's only real one way to go for Darks, and that's going to be Imperium. They have some prime space and Queries or period bases they could claim. Who knows? And maybe some stuff in Fountain. I don't know if it needs all of it. But yeah, that's probably going to be the end of that.
Would the Imperium want Sword Dragon and Darkness?
I think they will take them in. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Imperium will take almost anyone in that isn't ex-Bob.
Yeah.
AKA NC Dot.
Right.
So I think that they're going to be fine. Yeah. Or maybe, who knows, man? Like, I honestly, like, I don't want to go lean myself too far out of the window here because who knows? Like, maybe the Sword doesn't want to keep going, or maybe he wants to do a completely different approach on Darkness. Maybe they're going to move to low sec, maybe try to focus on different stuff. That might be possible as well. But I think the most likely option is for them to just go join the Imperium and have a safe space to live and, do their thing.
Yeah, get back on their feet. Once rivals, now they may join forces. Well, we'll see. We'll find out this weekend.
Gonna be interesting to see what happens to all the empty space. Again, we're not planning on taking any. At least NC and PL aren't. I can't speak for our Chinese allies, obviously. So we'll see what happens. What's gonna happen to that space? But should be interesting either way.
Yeah.
All right. And we already have our next campaign lined up, so I might be able to keep delivering some content for the show to PvP wise, because we already have a target to go after we're done with this.
You gonna give us a hint?
I can't. No, not yet. It's too early.
But Panda Fam, or you won't? Will you say who's going to be involved in the next campaign?
I would probably think it's going to be mostly NC and PL. We'll see if anyone else joins us. Depends a bit on where it goes.
All right.
In terms of how fast it escalates, not where it is, like location wise, but if we, sometimes people overreact when groups like NC and PL deploy to their borders, and then when everybody gets involved. But I feel like it's going to be a rather chill campaign, and I think we want to do it as much with NC solo as we can because we have some work to do in NC as well, for sure. We've been relying a lot on our Chinese allies recently, and that's basically made some people just be like, oh, whatever, I don't need to log in anyways, because we have like these big Chinese groups that are pulling most of the numbers for us at the moment. So we kind of want to do something with NC where we're actually like dependent on our own, so that people, log in and we can get the activity back up a bit.
Right. Well, we shall see, right? After this weekend, we'll know what Sword Dragon's going to do. And then later on, at some point, PLNC will call out their new deployment. So there's a lot going on. This is good.
Yeah, I'll let you know whenever we can make it public. Probably when, like, a day before the move up or whatever. I could probably tell you. And
Sounds
then we
great.
Can talk about it.
Sounds great.
So next week, when we can all talk about Providence, well, I guess we'll all be in Provi, right?
What is happening in Provi? There was like this big US
that's usually
last night, right?
That's the vacation.
That's usually the place to go when there's no content. We're like, oh, what do we all do?
No,
let's all go to Providence.
It's not Provi. Like, I can already say that. It's definitely not Provi. But I saw like the battle report of last night. There was like a lot of dead dreads. I don't really know what happened, to be honest.
Looking at the
has to be challenging living in Providence. Like, oh, look, the war in the north might be ending. Oh, darn it, they're all going to come here.
Yeah, don't know. We'll look into it. Could have been just a dread bomb. There was a fight in Delve today where Sotillo was destroyed, and also Ranger Regiment Titan went down a rag. That happened about 4 hours ago.
True. Yeah. True.
So
All right. Well.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We'll wrap up today and talk tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday. That's like my one day off. But we have something in the can that is being edited right now for you guys. It's an interview with CCP Muppet Hunter and CCP Ratati talking about EVE development, the pathway. It talks a little bit about what they have in mind and what they're looking for as far as balance, not just of ships and players, but also ecosystems and game styles and that kind of stuff. Very good interview. It flowed really well and went for about 2 hours. I think it'll be cut down to a little less than that. And then this Sunday, we're going to see the actual video at the usual Talking in Stations time. So don't miss that. Okay, thanks, Killa B, for bringing some news as always, and Arya for dropping some stuff. I'm glad we were on long enough to show you that FanFest is canceled. That's the big news of the hour, of the day, really. FanFest is canceled due to COVID-19 coronavirus fears. So that is a big bummer. I hope people can... oh my God, I just ordered hundreds of dollars worth of buttons and stickers like yesterday.
Refund.
Same. Spent 250 quid on hoodies.
Yeah.
Rip.
Just blew a
Feels
bunch
Cancel
of...
that shit right away.
Yeah, maybe we can cancel it. I'll talk to her.
Like if you just ordered it, you can probably make it calling the
There's probably a lot of companies who have had their orders delayed regardless, and people may be able to cancel them. Like there's a lot of people who are getting stuff from China, and those orders are still in a cancelable phase, which they didn't even consider before.
Yeah, let me get to this person right now before I go any further.
Are you live?
You guys, yeah, we're still live. You guys have anything else?
Quick question on the interview. You said that was going to come out tonight. Tonight, I guess, U.S. time, so early tomorrow morning if you're in the other part of the world. Where can viewers see that? Is that on the website? Is that on the podcast? Where could they expect that will show?
The interview that we did?
Yes.
That will be out today on Talking in Stations podcast, which look for it by name, Talking in Stations. It will come out today. Wednesday's show was actually delayed to tonight, so there will be a Talking in Stations live tonight. That is not going to be it. That's the Wednesday show pushed back. But we recorded the CCP interview yesterday, and it will be out tonight on podcast. If you want to see it early, if you want to hear it early, that's where it's going to be this weekend. But Sunday, you can catch that show at the usual time, Talking in Station 1600 UTC on Sundays, streaming here. I'm thinking I will have a behind-the-scenes version of that interview because we said some funny stuff to each other, but it's just kind of there's no newsworthy stuff in there. It's just kind of some of the banter and stuff. But that may be released to, I'm thinking to Patreons so that Patreons get something, like some behind-the-scene access to TIS. We got to reward them in some way for helping us out. They're the ones that just paid for all these buttons and stickers that got canceled, if we can cancel them. But that's where some of the money goes. Oh my God. All right, everybody. Thanks very much. Let's have a quick look at where we can drop you off. Commiserate about FanFest being taken offline. The last call, by the way, for anything. You guys have anything you want to talk about?
Real briefly, Inner Hell has redeployed this week. From what I can tell, they're on a 5-5 group, and it's a group about like a third their size, and it's a Russian group. So Inner Hell usually has two ways that they operate on things. They have been doing 2-5 nullsec groups as of late, and there have been a bunch of 2-5 nullsec groups that have reported that they've been seeded by Inner Hell. But it was kind of an interesting play. A lot of people in Wormhole space were expecting them to move on another 2-5 nullsec group, but they moved into a 5 static 5 group. And normally, when they attack small groups that are smaller than their, than like when they have overwhelming odds, when it's like 120 to like, I don't know, 20 or so, it's either one of two things happening. Either they have a grudge for the people that they're attacking, and their people that they're attacking are Russian, so there might be something there that nobody knows about, or they're ramping up for practice in order to attack a larger 5-5 group, which would be interesting because they haven't done a 5-5 eviction in a little while. But yeah, they have the whole shebang. They've got dreads, they've got their entire fleet deployed plus reinforcements, and they deployed on Thursday. They should be knocking down the armor timer today, so be paying attention to Z-Kill for Interhell Loot Pinata on Sunday. I would say Sunday afternoon U.S. time zone is probably when it's going to pop. But yeah, that's what's going on with them.
Always interesting. So check that out, Interhell. We'll look at that and try to translate it for you guys. Okay, we're going to raid Tamaya Cowboy. By the way, thanks very much, Tiberius. That's who it was, right, Tiberius?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks very much for your information on the real life Corvid virus or COVID.
Yeah, no problem.
Corvid and all that. Yeah, you've been contributing a lot, and I really appreciate it. Okay.
No problem.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next time. Please enjoy this Tomaya Cowboy. We're going to rate them. And we will see you Monday.